Most HubSpot webinar integrations break your data. Today we'll take a look at the top-rated webinar software for HubSpot based on both the HubSpot marketplace as well as G2. So here we'll just input Univid webinars and we'll find the Univid webinar integration to HubSpot. We can see that it has a bunch of installs and is top rated in the HubSpot marketplace. It also has some info about what type of data that actually will be shared. And a good HubSpot webinar integration should allow a lot of engagement data to flow back into HubSpot for each attendee that attended the webinar. So you'll get things like watch time, whether they watched the replay or not, the CTA clicks, etc. But also you will be able to register attendees or registrants to the webinar platform or webinar software from HubSpot, or use the webinar software's built-in registration pages. But we'll look at that and how exactly we'll register attendees in just a few seconds. First we'll actually connect the two systems. So to connect HubSpot and Univid's webinar platform, we can try things out for free. We'll simply go into univid.io/integrations, and here we can find the HubSpot webinar integration, and we can try things out. I'll put a link down below as well so you can try it and follow along. So to try it, we simply press the button here to try, and then we'll jump over to Univid. Here we can connect the two systems, and you can input your domain to start with. We'll just input HubSpot to get a visual example for this short demo. Also input your email if you haven't already. Here you can connect HubSpot right away, and we can simply press connect. We can then select the account we want to connect to, and then press choose here, and then we'll have our HubSpot webinar integration set up. So essentially it's a one-click setup, no additional installs needed or configurations really. We can then use the built-in registration pages to automatically sign people up from Univid to HubSpot, and then we'll get the engagement data flow automatically. If we want to register people from HubSpot, it's a matter of setting one more workflow up, but then we're ready to go. We'll also adjust the splash image to a more HubSpot suiting one. Yeah, this is our AI designed webinar that is automatically branded with the URL we put in. But now we'll take a look at how you actually get registrants into HubSpot, and the first way is to do it through the built-in registration pages in Univid. Here we can see that we have some info. We can add some speaker images and some agenda and info here by editing. We can also change the language if we like. Then we can see that under access and registration here we have a form ready for us. We can edit the form if we'd like any additional fields, but then we can also preview the form. So I'll do that, and then we can see that we have a registration page already created for us. If we log out, we can also test signing up here, info here, and then try to register, and then the registrant will show up in HubSpot now automatically through the integration that we just set up. We can also join with this registrant and interact a bit, add some reactions, write in the chat, and interact on the call to action button as well. And when we do all of this engagement data will be sent over to HubSpot. So that's pretty cool, and it works straight out of the box. To showcase the engagement, I'll also activate the Q&A, so we have that also. We can have either or activated, and I'll also just prepared a poll that you can easily do, and I'll launch that to show what it looks like when an attendee has also submitted answers. So the attendee answered all of these and wrote a question in the Q&A. And finally press the call to action button to convert. Just like that. Okay, now we navigate over to HubSpot, and we can see that we have a contact created from the Univid webinars integration. So that's awesome. We can then go into activity timeline, the activity settings, and once we have to just activate the timeline events so we can see them in the timeline. So we'll check Univid webinars there, and now we can see all of the timeline events. And yeah, pretty smooth. So we can see that this person registered to the webinar. That's the first thing here. Also, they wrote a chat message with the content of hi or hey, and they answered a poll, and the 3 answers in that multiple choice question poll. And they also asked a Q&A question and finally converted on the CTA button, which linked to HubSpot.com in this case, with the title here. So pretty cool stuff, and now you can actually also use these activity like timeline events in a functional way. So not just let your salespeople see this on contact level, but you can also go into segments in HubSpot and actually build new segments based on this, or trigger workflows based on whether someone clicked the CTA button, for example. We'll open up segments here and we'll create a new one. Then we'll select contacts in this case, as it is webinar attendees or registrants we'll take a look at. And we'll go into next, and we can then add filters here. Here in the filter settings we can go into events, and here we'll have the marketing kind of app events, where Univid webinars is one of the categories. And here we can see that we have a bunch of nice filters that we can essentially select. So I'll choose asked Q&A question for this one, and I'll go into just has been completed, sounds good for me. I just simply want to fetch all of the registrants or attendees that asked a Q&A question in this case, and that did it between this week, let's say. And that's it. I can obviously filter on other things like whether you watched a certain time or also pressed the CTA button or did this in several webinars or attended at least 2 webinars, for example. And yeah, then we can simply create a list, and we can choose active or static in this case and just create the segment. Then we'll wait for a few seconds, and we can see that we now then have our segment created for us with the contact that we just entered. I'll also add a title, asked Q&A question last week. And then I could use this to create a custom follow-up, let's say, or pass them over to the sales team, or yeah, trigger a workflow. So I'll also briefly just illustrate how you would register someone from a HubSpot form to your webinar software. First, I'll show you how to create a form to let people sign up to your webinar through your own landing pages or forms, and we'll start off by using a workflow to then trigger the registrant from the form to Univid. If you don't have workflows available on your HubSpot account, you can still use the form setup, but then you'll add a hidden field with a custom value, which matches the webinar ID. And I can show you that just in a minute. But basically here we can use the start from blank template, and we'll get empty kind of form here. We can say here register to webinar workflow. And here we'll have the basic fields, first name, last name, and email that are required in Univid as well, or the webinar software, to be able to send out the confirmation emails and the reminder emails. So essentially, as soon as someone registers here, you have the confirmation email in Univid active. You can check that here, then they'll get a confirmation email and up to 3 reminders before the webinar starts. Example, if you use the built-in ones, so most users do that and are happy with those. You also have the add to calendar link, and you can add your own colors and image on top as well. You can also send your own if you want to fetch the personal link and build your own calendar links directly in HubSpot and use those emails if you want to really customize things, but most users are happy with the built-in ones. Let's now add a workflow after someone submits. Up the workflows tool, which has some more advanced automations, and create a workflow from scratch. Here we can essentially find the web. Here we'll select the register to webinar via workflow, the form submission that we just added. We'll then go to the next step, and we can now add the next step, meaning an action that should be taking place when the trigger is triggered, meaning when someone registers in your form. And then we can select here register to Univid webinar. You also see that you have like get personal calendar event links to construct your own emails. In the drop down here, select the webinar. In this case, it was something around HubSpot. And I think select that. This will be the webinar that the registrants are registered to. So let's review and turn things on here. Looks good, and I'll skip to turn on. That sounds good. So now the workflow is turned on. I go and copy my form and see whether this works. I'll register a test user 2 here and simply submit and see whether they will be added to the webinar. Go into the webinar in Univid and we'll check whether we have a new registrant. And seems like we have a new registrant, so things are working, and we can now submit both registrants from the Univid registration page, but also through the HubSpot form and the workflow. So that's it, pretty straightforward, and then the email can also go out. User has also received an email with their personal link and the add to calendar buttons. Briefly, I want to also show you what it can look like if you use a hidden field to submit a new registrant if you don't have workflows accessible. And you could use HubSpot forms with a Univid session ID as a hidden property field instead. So that works if you want to use HubSpot landing pages but don't have the workflows enabled on your account. In here and create a new form, we'll use the form editor. We'll start from blank again, and this is what the form looks like. We'll now add an additional field, and in this case it will just be a single line text field, and the title of it, Univid session ID. So that's important that it matches what Univid expects. We'll also create a new property, so we have that ready for us, and it's added to the contact in this case, and we'll also make sure it's a hidden field so the user doesn't see it when they register. Also, we'll add a default value, which will be the matching value of this webinar. So I'll select that and input it. So that will be always matching the right webinar, so you'll update it for the current webinar, and then we'll copy this form, and we can now try to register with the third registrant, and this time not using like a trigger via workflow, rather a hidden property. So let's now see whether we have an additional registrant on the webinar. We can refresh here, go into registrants, and see that we have our third registrant now registered via the hidden property method. So now you have 3 ways you can register new users to webinars using HubSpot and the Univid to HubSpot webinar integration, a top rated one. See all of the engagement data just like this in HubSpot, and how you can then also use it functionally, building segments or even trigger workflows based on what the attendees do in each webinar. To try things out on your own, just go to univid.io/integrations and you'll find the HubSpot integration there. You can explore things a bit on your own, and you do have some other integrations and an API if you want to build AI native workflows with your webinars, and enjoy your automation with HubSpot going forward. And I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!